Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's 4 o'clock, and we will open up the meeting of the Board of Public Works for Thursday, November 17th, 2022. Director Foote, will you take the roll call?
Yes, absolutely. Commissioner Moriarty?
Here.
Commissioner Shoneman?
Here.
Commissioner Lemon?
Here.
Commissioner Shea?
I am here. I am checking in remotely to the meeting. I have laryngitis and potentially RSV and did not want to get anyone sick. I am home and there is no one with me, though it's possible there will be a 3 and or 5-year-old that storms into the room at any time.
Okay, we have a quorum, so the meeting will continue. The mayor will be absent for tonight's meeting, and I will sit as the chair for tonight. First on the agenda, after roll call, will be motion to approve the agenda. Commissioner Shum.
May I just bring it to all of your attention that you have a goldenrod copy. Motion C under wastewater was added to the agenda. So that's why you have a goldenrod copy.
Okay.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. I
Thank you.
motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Yes, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
I have
Aye.
Oh, roll call, I'm sorry.
Unfortunately. Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman?
Yes.
Commissioner Lemon?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Next on the agenda, item number 3, Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to approve the minutes of the Board of Public Works meeting of October 27, 2022.
That is the motion. Is there any discussion? We'll take a roll call vote.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman?
Yes.
Commissioner Lemon?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes. Item 4 on the agenda will be public comment. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak?
I'm on the agenda further down. Do I speak now or then?
You can speak then if you'd like. Or either, if you'd like to speak now, you certainly can, but you can speak at that time.
Okay, seeing no public comment, we'll move on to item number 5, Parks Department. Commissioner Lemon, motion A.
Motion is to approve change order 1 to the contract for the purchase and installation of a central irrigation system with Corbett Incorporated in the amount of $27,925. Funding will be through Department 177, Parks and Recreation, Fund, Prior Year Escrow, Activity, Central Irrigation Project.
Good evening, everyone. Brian Conant, Superintendent of Parks and Recreation. Earlier in the year, we had done this at 13 other locations. The soccer fields at Maine Dunstable are, I would say, one of the bigger water users that we have that are not on the central irrigation system. You might look at this and wonder why the cost is a little bit more than the other locations. And the reason for that is currently right now there are 3 controller clocks that control the irrigation on the 6 different fields that we have there. A lot of this cost is going to be running wire to condense that into one. So that is, that's why this is a little bit more expensive than the other ones. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Seeing no questions, we'll move for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman?
Yes.
Commissioner Lemon?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries. Item number B, Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to approve the purchase of a 2022 Toro Workman HDX for the price of $39,795.64 pursuant to the Sourcewell contract number 18696-CEC. Funding will be through Department 177. Fund Prior Year Escrow. Account classification 81 Capital.
Brian Conant, Superintendent of Parks and Recreation. Currently, right now, we have a 2007, the same piece of equipment at Holman Stadium. It's got a utility body that dumps. This piece of equipment is used heavily, whether it's for game day setup or helping throughout the season move different things throughout the facility. I'd be happy to answer any questions on this if there are any.
What's an HDX?
It's just the model type. It's
Oh.
heavy duty. That's what it stands
Oh,
for.
okay.
Yeah, no, sometimes a picture helps.
Yes, sorry about that.
Commissioner Schulman.
Looking at these three pieces of equipment that you're suggesting that we purchase, they all seem fabulously expensive. The first one being essentially a power golf cart with some extra capability. Do any of these go out for bid, or how do you choose which company you buy these from?
The quote that we get from is on a bid Sourcewell. It's a bid website, so it is a state bid, I think it's nice to get something that currently we have one that's a 2007. They've changed a little bit. Everybody seems happy with that. I think Toro, the piece of equipment that we're buying, is a quality piece of equipment. I think that's one thing we were looking for is, currently the one we have is a 2007, and it's considering its age, it's still in pretty good shape. Now, should we replace it? Yes, we should. But I guess the discretion with the equipment that we bought is really based off of my discretion and the staff's and what we currently have. So, in looking at a lot of these things on the list, you'll find they're replacing pieces of equipment that we do have that were that are aged. You have to stay current. So, I don't know if that answers your question, but
Sorry.
it's okay.
I agree that the equipment you have now, based on what's in the packet, is outdated, and they do need replacing. But is there any room for economy here? Buying used, buying something a little more competitive? There's a bid process that's a little more competitive.
I don't think buying used equipment would be ideal. And I feel comfortable with the equipment that we bought. I think it's superior to the other brands that we would have to choose from, and that's why we went with this.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Superintendent, is the 2007 piece of equipment, is that also a Toro?
It is. It is, Commissioner Moriarty.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I believe the brand tends to hold up the longest, in my honest opinion, and what I've seen throughout my career. So.
Any further questions? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Schoneman?
Yes.
Commissioner Lemon?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes. Item number 3, Commissioner Lemon.
Motion to approve the purchase of a 2022 Toro ProCare 648 for a price of $37,116.35 pursuant to the Sourcewell contract number 18696-CEC. Funding will be through Department 177, Fund, Prior Year Escrow, Account Classification 81, Capital.
Brian Conant, Superintendent of Parks. This piece of equipment is an air fryer. There's metal tines that poke holes into the ground. It alleviates compaction, reduces thatch amount. It's a great tool to have in your arsenal. It's essential in creating a healthy turf environment, which is what we're all striving for at Holman Stadium. Currently, right now, I didn't write this in the memo, but we have a air fryer there that's a 1988. It's a Ryan. They no longer make that brand. Again, I feel this is the best air fryer on the market, and that's why we went with this route. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on this as well.
Okay, seeing no questions.
I do have one
Oh,
question.
sure.
Yes, Commissioner Shea.
Thank you so much. So this would be used not just at Holman, but you're also saying some of the areas of the soccer field, so it could do duty elsewhere. Do you see anywhere else aside from soccer fields in Holman that this might be put to use?
So where I'd like to use this is on the scale of air fires. You know, this is somewhat smaller. There's less of an impact. This has got 3 wheels. It's self-driven. I see this being used primarily, like I wrote, at Holman, at the soccer fields. My goal in the future is that we could get a PTO-driven air fryer that's twice the size of this, that would go on the back of the tractor, that we would use on, you know, our athletic fields, the entire thing. But you know,
So
this. Yep.
with the size of the unit, it would take a long time to service a larger area, but for the kind of focus spaces, like where the goalie tamps things down, and then to dedicate a couple days of work or what have you to Holman, it does the job. And you're saying that over the long term, you'd like to see us work towards getting a bigger unit?
Yes. In the long term, I'd like to have both. In a perfect world, yes.
That's great. I appreciate your enthusiasm for the turf, and thank you for working on all these things.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Superintendent, I would just make a point that I think, again, a picture would help the commissioners and the public. If we had a picture of these pieces of equipment along with the quote. I don't know how the other commissioners feel about that, but
Yeah.
it does help.
That's a great suggestion. I do apologize.
Okay, are there further questions? Okay. We'll move
Commissioner
forward.
Mor-
Yeah, yeah.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman?
Yes.
Commissioner Lemon?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes. Moving on to item number D, Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to approve the purchase of a 2022 Toro Versavac for a price of $39,016.60 pursuant to the Sourcewell contract number 18696-CEC. Funding will be through Department 177, Fund Prior Year Escrow, Account Classification 81 Capital.
Brian Conant, Superintendent of Parks. This is a piece of machinery, again, that we do have. The one we currently have is 2003. It's heavily used. This is a machine that you would pull behind the tractor, and it sucks up leaves, compacts it into the back of it. So it's a great tool. It's essential in our fall cleanup activities. And the one that we have, being aged almost 20 years old, has given the department some problems in the past couple of years. And I think it would be wise to replace it and get something new now. That's why we put this on here. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about this.
It says here that there's a handheld hose, so somebody sucks the leaves up by hand?
No,
You,
you can take the hose attachment off of this, but what we usually use it for is hooking it up behind a tractor and towing it behind, and it's almost like a vacuum.
Okay.
There's a unit in the front of it that has suction that sucks up the leaves. The leaves go through the tube and into the back chamber to be collected, and then it's easily dumped too. So you can dump it right from the seat of the tractor.
Okay.
So it's a pretty efficient little machine.
I have a question.
Sure.
Would you see putting this to use for some other purposes, seeding, dethatching, that kind of stuff? Does it require any additional attachments for that activity, if so?
That's a great question, Commissioner. It's something I missed out on. You can use this for thatch, which is decayed leaf material. Too much of that can be problematic in a number of ways. So to answer your question, yes, you can use that for this without any additional attachments.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Further questions? Roll call vote.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman?
Yes.
Commissioner Lemon?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. Item number 8, Commissioner Lemon.
The motion is to consider the request from Sharon Marcotte of Richmond, New Hampshire, to accept the donation of a memorial boulder with plaque to be placed in Mine Falls Park.
Mrs. Marcotte is here and would like to speak.
Sure, Mrs. Margaret, why don't you come on up? We just need your name and address for the public.
Hi, I'm Sharon Marcotte, 460 Whipple Hill Road, Richmond, New Hampshire. I am here on the behalf of my late brother, Robert Woodbine, at his request to place a memorial at Mine Falls Park on his behalf. He was a resident of Nashua for approximately 25 years and frequented the park. It meant a lot to him to be able to go there and enjoy Mine Falls. And prior to his death, he specifically had asked me to do something like this for him, if at all possible. So that's what I'm trying to do, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
What are the usual regulations for things like this?
That's a good question. There aren't really any regulations. And superintendent can probably speak to it. I think he spoke with the Mine Falls Park Advisory Committee about this, but there are no hard, fast rules. It's something that's considered on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
Yes.
Do we have other memorial plaques inside Mine Falls?
Superintendent, do you want to speak to maybe? Okay.
Yes, there are some memorials throughout the Mine Falls Park. In talking to the Mine Falls Committee, they were happy that this was brought up at the meeting. They stated that some memorials have gone in without them knowing. I guess, I guess their only concern in talking to them is that if we do allow this, how do we say no to anybody else moving forward? As I know it's a wonderful idea and it's a wonderful tribute, and I understand why they would want to do this. But that was the committee's feeling in bringing it up to them. So I don't know if you have any other questions for me, but.
I have a thought to share.
Okay,
Or I guess
Commissioner Shea,
first
why
I
don't
have,
you-
I have a question for Sharon. Sharon, is this a boulder that you already have somewhere?
I haven't purchased the boulder, but it is set aside for me with a memorial company, Peterborough, Marlborough, and Granite. So it is something that I've kind of picked out, but it hasn't been purchased as yet.
And is there any significance to the choice of a boulder specifically as the kind of monument of remembrance?
Are you talking about the boulder itself or a different type of memorial?
Well, yeah, I suppose that the choice of a boulder versus a bench or some other item. Is there a, does the
sorry.
boulder stand out for you or?
My original proposal was actually a bench, but the requirements for the foundation are just beyond my financial capacity, and so the boulder was another option that I could basically afford to donate.
Okay. And I have some general thought on the choice of boulder. I do understand that it's maybe cost prohibitive for a bench, but where folks have donated benches in remembrance, It's a functional item that gives people an opportunity for respite, to sit and enjoy, and pause for a moment during their walk. Whereas the boulder is of course, also an excellent device for memorial, but the public is not necessarily served in placing that. And so I would be more open to something along the lines of a bench that provides a benefit to park visitors, and that's my thought.
I'm kind of the opposite mind than Paul, because Mine Falls, one of the things that's really spectacular about Mine Falls is that we have this wild area in the middle of a city of 90,000 people. So I kind of like the idea of a boulder over a bench. I mean, you can still sit on a boulder if you want, even if it's a memorial boulder. And I think that the park superintendent brought up an excellent point. The Mine Falls Advisory Committee is concerned about the number of memorials that are just going into the park. And since we don't have any regulations about this, we are in danger of having, parks filled with benches and whatever, and so my biggest concern is, and I totally get why you want to do this for your brother, is how are we ever going to refuse the next person? So, did the people from the Mine Falls Advisory Group have any suggestions?
They seem to agree with Commissioner Shea about having benches. I think the problem with the bench is that the footing that's involved to create the bench, to make sure that with the frost eaves we have here in New England, that it doesn't sink. There's a perfect example right now of why you would need that footing around the gatehouse. In the back of the gatehouse, there's a pine tree. There's a bench, a granite stone bench up by the pine tree up above the gatehouse building. And the bench has come up out of the ground so much that it's slanted to the point where if you sat down on it, you would slide off. I think that's what we're getting at. But so that's kind of how they felt, if that answers your question, Commissioner.
I was just curious how the location was picked for the park, in the park.
I met with Andy Patrician and Brian Conant, and my husband and I had, looked around the park and looked at a couple different locations that we thought would be a good place for the boulder.
To be honest with you, this is the first time this has come up to our board since I've been on the board, which is, it's my third term, I guess, so this is new to us, so I think what I would suggest is maybe we could put it off and talk about it. I'd like to get the Mines Falls Advisory Committee involved with this. I don't know what your timeline is, but I don't want us to make the wrong decision and have to take it back after we said yes to the project. That would be my suggestion. Try and get the Mines Falls Park Advisory Committee, and, we probably need to discuss this a little further since there is no regulation regarding ongoing memorials. Is there any? Yeah, Commissioner Schoen.
I completely agree with Commissioner Moriarty, and I know it may seem a little harsh when, you're trying to do a good thing and a nice thing for the memory of your brother. But we do have these considerations as part of our job to preserve the overall look and integrity of all of the parks throughout the city. And it seems like a simple thing to put a rock in a park, but it's turning out to be not quite that simple. And I would like to find a way that we could do this for you in a way that's going to be workable for the future. So if I'm inclined to say no at this point. It's not because I don't want it done, but that we do it in the right way.
Yeah, I understand, thank you. And this project wouldn't, if it were approved, wouldn't be going in until spring, obviously, because winter is just about upon us, and, the ground will be frozen soon, so.
Yes.
Yeah,
Commissioner.
I agree with you and Commissioner Schoeneman. I really think that we need to look at this more because people are going to be asking more and more, and we need to have some kind of fair policy so that, we don't clutter up the parks with stuff. I'm not saying that a memorial stone to your brother is clutter, but
understand, I
if you
understand.
understand what I mean.
I do.
We need to weigh this, so I would think it would be good to have a meeting with the Mine Falls Advisory people and and I'm sure this is not just an issue for Mine Falls. I'm sure there are other green spaces where the park superintendent has been approached and sometimes not been approached, and things just end up in the park. So I would agree with Commissioner Moriarty and Schoeneman that we take a further look at this before we make a decision.
Is it possible to table
Yes.
it, to table the motion until we can have a little bit wider discussion with other parties concerned?
That would be what I would suggest.
Okay.
I just have a few additional thoughts I'd like to share, if I may.
Go ahead, Commissioner Shea.
So Sharon, I just want to acknowledge that you've come to us because Mine Falls was such a special place to your brother, and I think that is really wonderful that we have a place like that in Nashua, that your brother was able to enjoy it, and that it was so significant to him that you and he thought that this would be a great way to remember him. And also, did he do a lot of bike riding through the park?
He did, yes.
Yeah, and that Nashua, between Yadiki and Mine Falls and some other places, there's a lot of great spots for that in Nashua, and I'm really glad that your brother took full advantage of that. And so, thank you for sharing his love for enjoying these spaces with us today. And I would say that I'm in agreement. I'd also like to get more feedback and maybe some concrete direction from the Mine Falls Advisory Committee. I think that's a great suggestion.
Thank you so much for coming for us.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I think we should vote on that.
Yeah, it's John.
We should vote on that.
My name's Kevin Marcotte, Sharon's husband. I was just curious, we've seen sculptures, metal sculptures in the park. How did those get put in? Who approved those? Was there a different rules for that?
Director Fodor.
Well, I think you're probably referring to the sculpture symposium. So yes, those would be approved. If they were in a park, those would be under the jurisdiction of this board.
So was there any rules to that, to put those in?
For the sculpture symposium? No. They they come before the board, and the board decides whether or not
So
they will allow it.
They were allowed, but other stuff isn't? Were they cemented into?
Yes, they were put on foundations.
Okay.
Appropriately, yes.
I was just curious, those got in there, but they're not natural looking either. They're metal.
Right.
I was just
That's
curious.
The whole symposium is an initiative by the city to inspire more sculpture, and anything in the park, as the director said, was approved by us.
Okay.
But there are sculptures throughout the city, not only in the parks.
Okay, but just wanted to know, those got approved, but a boulder can't,
Well, we're not saying it's. it won't
Right,
get
no,
approved.
I'm just curious. I was just curious about,
You just want to do the right thing.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so I will make that motion that we table this item until we can have further dialogue with the Mines Falls Advisory Committee. And we'll take a roll call on that. My motion?
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman?
Yes.
Commissioner Lemon?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea? Commissioner Shea?
Yes, sorry, the
Okay.
mute button was not going for me there.
Thank you. Motion passes. Moving into wastewater department, item A, Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to approve the user warrants as presented.
Okay. And we'll take a roll call.
Okay. Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman?
Yes.
Commissioner Lemon?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Item B, Commissioner Lemon.
Motion to approve change order 1 to the contract with Dubie's General Contracting for the door upgrade project in the amount not to exceed $23,832. Funding will be through Department 169 wastewater, Fund wastewater, account 81 capital improvements.
Thank you. Superintendent Boucher?
Thank you. Dave Boucher, wastewater superintendent. The wastewater facility hired Doobie General Contracting to upgrade several doors throughout the wastewater facility, varying in different ages. The doors had different degrees of damage to them due to age. Some of them received a lot of corrosion due to weather, some from chemicals from the buildings that they actually sit on. So we hired Doobie General Contractor. They did a great job with the first set of doors that we had. We generated another list of doors that needed the similar kind of attention, and we'd like to have them continue on and service these doors.
Discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion, we'll take a roll call vote.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman?
Yes.
Commissioner Lemon?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Motion passes. Item C, Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to approve the purchase and installation of a 150-gallon day tank to MB Maintenance of New Boston, New Hampshire, in the amount not to exceed $29,870. Funding will be through Department 169 WRF, Fund Wastewater, Account 81 Capital Improvements.
Thank you, Dave Boucher, wastewater superintendent. We recently had an annual inspection by MB Maintenance on all our above-ground and below-ground storage tanks, fuel storage tanks. There was a deficiency on this day tank. It's a double-walled tank. So fuel comes from the underground storage tank, goes into the above-ground day tank, and then feeds our north generator. That inner wall leaked, and so it's deemed unrepairable because you can't access the inside tank without destroying the tank. So we have to replace the tank. So this is the cost to repair it, actually replace it. And we get a letter from the state. It's a letter of deficiency that requires us to replace it, which we do anyway, but, so.
Okay. No discussion? We'll move for a vote.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes?
Commissioner Shoneman?
Yes.
Commissioner Lemon?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion
Thank you.
carries. Thank you, Superintendent. Moving on to the Engineering Department. Motion A, Commissioner Lemon.
Motion is to approve the sewer service permits and fees as submitted.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman?
Yes.
Commissioner Lemon?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item B, Commissioner Shoneman.
I move to approve the following poll license petitions as listed in the staff report.
Discussion. Roll-
Commis-
Yeah, go.
Commissioner
sorry.
Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman?
Yes.
Commissioner Lemon?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Item C, Commissioner Lemon.
This is informational,
Oh, yes, it is.
yeah.
Director Farrell.
Engineer Hudson and.
There will be a local
Will be
concerns
will be
meeting. Do I have
presented.
to read that, or did
No,
they just
I
speak?
No.
think.
Okay.
No, you don't. Dan Hudson, city engineer, so Pleased tonight to introduce Deputy City Engineer Mark Saunders to address this project. This is related to a grant the city received, and we need to hold some public meetings, and Mr. Saunders will describe what we're here to discuss tonight and introduce the other members of the design team.
Thank you, Engineer Hudson. Mark Saunders, Deputy City Engineer. We have loaded up a presentation for tonight. It should be on the PowerPoint.
We're gonna get rid of Zoom here. Was there anything? Huh. See if we can find it here. Oh, there we go.
Thank you. Can we go into the presentation mode, please?
My eyes are so. There you go. I can't. I don't have my glasses. I can't see. Uh-oh. Hopefully it comes back. There we go.
Mark Saunders, Deputy City Engineer. Tonight I'll be giving a brief presentation regarding a recently awarded grant, the Safe Transportation for Every Pedestrian or STEP grant. This is the first public meeting of the required two for this project. Joined with me today are two consultants who are also working on the project from Hoyle Tanner, Heidi Marshall and Stephen Haas. The engineering for this project is going to be a combined effort between in-house city staff as well as the consultant Hoyle Tanner. That is to help keep costs down. In this presentation, I'll go over what the STEP grant is, the project overview, existing conditions, funding, schedule, the scope, and then we'll open up for questions and comments. The STEP grant. The STEP program is an initiative from Federal Highway through the 5th round of Everyday Counts funding. A project narrative was drafted to improve pedestrian safety throughout the downtown core. The grant narrative was submitted in November of 2019. The project overview is to improve pedestrian safety throughout the use of proven countermeasures at mid-block crosswalk locations. Some of the countermeasures that will be evaluated are high visibility pavement markings, curb extensions, and rectangular rapid flashing beacons. These mid-block crosswalk locations are located throughout Nashua's downtown core. That includes Main Street, Kinsley Street, West Hollis Street, Walnut Street, and the rail trail. The project focuses on uncontrolled crosswalk location. An uncontrolled crosswalk is a crosswalk that doesn't have a traffic signal, stop sign, or pedestrian signal. Where available, traffic and pedestrian data was collected, along with crash data to determine the project limits. Within the project limits since 2006, there were 70 pedestrian accidents resulting in 60 injuries. Along with these existing conditions, the majority of locations are not ADA compliant, and as part of the project, they will become ADA compliant. Funding. So the total grant amount applied for was $565,000. This is an 80-20 share, with the federal burden is 80%, which is $452,000, and the city's share is the 20%, which is $113,000. The city entered into an agreement with the state of New Hampshire through Resolution 21-179. This project is a federal project, and it will follow the requirements set forth by the state of New Hampshire. Currently, the project is in preliminary design. All of the design phases are anticipated to be completed and the project out to bid by May of '23. There will be a second public meeting once a solution is determined and be proposed to the public. With this project being a federal project, there are several steps that need to be completed along the way. As stated, the preliminary design phase includes 2 public meetings, with this being one of them. Currently, the project limits are being evaluated for environmental impacts. With the public input, the design process will progress further along. Alternate solutions will be evaluated and a second meeting will be held to present the proposed action. Once everything has been approved for the project, it'll move into the final design phase and be prepped for bid. After bidding, the project will be constructed. Lastly, there'll be some post-project data collection and a final report drafted. So at this time, I'd like to open up to any comments. I can be reached at the contact information below. I will also be putting a sign-in sheet over on that table for any members of the public that would like the contact information and to be updated along the project. I did, as a part of this, the direct abutters, I did send out a mailing. There was about 60 direct abutters throughout the various crosswalk locations that we're analyzing for this grant. And I'll open up the questions, and I'm going to put the sign-over sheet over there.
Commissioner Sharman.
I recognize that this is something that we very much need in our city. My days of pushing a stroller are done, but I haven't forgotten how hard it is to get around in the city sometimes when you're on wheels. I wanted to know, the grant that was awarded, does that cover the federal portion or the entire cost of the project?
So the grant that was awarded was the $565,000. Out of that, the city is responsible for 20%, and then the federal share is the 80%. So the federal dollars that would be participating in this project is the $452,000 towards the project.
And the city comes up with the 20% out of the city budget? Or is that funding that came through the grant?
Nope, that is city funding. That is escrowed. It's in an escrow account, the funding. Am I correct by saying that?
Yeah, it's already appropriated.
Yeah, it's already appropriated. Yep.
Okay. And when another question, if I may, when the construction is actually done, that's going out for bid, that's not going to be city workers doing that work?
Nope, that is, it's going to go to bid, and it'll be a contractor.
Okay. That's interesting. Why Streets isn't doing it? Is it usual that our sidewalk work is done by contractors, or is this unusual? Because it's a federal grant project.
So our internal street department, they do a lot of repair work and that sort of thing. This being the federal dollars, there are certain requirements. There's wage rate requirements and all kinds of processing and things you need to do. What we found is it's a lot cleaner just to bid those out as construction projects. The contractors that are hired fully understand that full federal process and will go through it. So if we were going to do this in-house, we may not have gone out for a grant. This grant was always done with the understanding that we would end up bidding out the construction.
I see.
And we believe the budget is sufficient. I mean, to cover all the work, the specific locations were selected for the grant opportunity. We're going to have to pare that back a little bit because of some complications. This grant doesn't allow us to do much for right-of-way work and that sort of thing. Just that there's, limited budget, limited time to get this out to construction. So we'll be paring back, but with the inflation of costs that we've seen recently, we expect it'll all work out just fine. The work that's anticipated, I mean, we'll go through a bunch of options, but primarily it's going to be putting up the rectangular rapid flashing beacons at locations and then fixing the ramps. In a couple locations, we'll probably be doing some bump outs. But that's getting a little ahead of us. Like, the purpose of this first meeting is a local concerns meeting. It's almost a blank plan meeting, some people call it, where we are seeking input from the public or the board as we engage in this project, what things we should be thinking about or considering. We'll go back, we'll do our homework collectively with Hoyle Tanner, collaboratively, and then we'll come back with what we're proposing, and then everybody will have an opportunity to comment on that at that time. It is a little unusual to have these initial meetings with no specifics to share, but that's kind of the intent, and that's part of the state and federal process that they require we follow for this project.
Commissioner Lemon?
So you said that these traffic areas are ones that don't have a stop sign or any kind of traffic control. So when you did the data gathering, how do you rank them? Like, in what is the worst, or what is the best, or how many people you think it affects on a daily basis?
So we did look at pedestrian counts as well as vehicle counts, and this, as I said, this is the downtown core, which is Main Street, Factory Street, Walnut, Kinsley. That was the project area, and we focused on all the mid-block crossings within that area. So for an example, right here, this is Factory Street, shown on the slide. That is at the garage. That is what a mid-block crosswalk looks like.
So I assume you'll have identified a lot of these, and as you said, budget will come into play. So will you rank them in, like, this is the most pressing one, this is the least pressing one? I'm just curious about how you will determine that. Is it by number of bad things that have happened, accidents, or will it be just high volume of people, or will it be a mix of the two?
Yeah, so with this project, it's every mid-block within the project limits that's going to be analyzed. The goal is to do all of them unless we come up with right-of-way constraints, which if we needed, we can work within the right-of-way, but if we needed an easement onto private property, that is a very difficult and timely process. So if we run up to those constraints, those would be looked to be pared back. But the goal is to do every crosswalk in the grant to get it done, so there's no need for the ranking system. We will, as Engineer Hudson said, this is kind of a blank slate.
Right.
So we will be looking at certain countermeasures for that match up with each crosswalk and kind of running the analysis that way to determine what the solution is for each individual location.
Great, that's what I wanted to know, thank you.
I would just comment on the crosswalk on Main Street by Peddler's Daughter. That thing always seems to be dysfunctional because of the underground wiring involved there, so I'm hoping that's not part of this preliminary design to have any of that with the winters we have here. I mean, that would be my comment.
And I'd just like to take a moment to say thank you for, this is Commissioner Shea. I just want to say thank you for working on projects like this to take advantage of federal funds. As a state, New Hampshire puts more into the system than we get back. And we are kind of disproportionately using programs like this to our disadvantage. So every opportunity to improve pedestrian safety and improve quality of life for Nashua and visitors is a great one to take. And so thank you for your work on this.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted, Commissioner Mariotti, I just wanted to make sure I understood. Are you talking about the crosswalk at one of the signalized intersections where you push the button, that setup?
He's talking about the Main Street Bridge.
Main Street Bridge, oh, in the middle of the bridge?
Yeah.
Okay,
Where we have the
That's the
lights
one.
and the,
okay. And the problems experienced there, I know they had tried some in-road lighting or stuff there that didn't work, but
yeah.
are you continuing to have issues with buttons or things, or what do you?
I mean, just the other night, a pedestrian was walking and I didn't see them because it was dark out.
Okay.
And she tried, and the lights weren't working. So, I mean, it
Okay.
seems to be a problem with those wiring, underground wiring. That's, at least at that one particular.
Okay, yeah, we can certainly look at that. I mean, the systems are such that there's a pedestrian push button, like if you were at a traffic signal. So obviously, the person crossing the street has to push the button, and then most of these locations, they talk wirelessly with each other across the street. We did do some recent installations along Main Street at some of the mid-block crossings, and I think those are working pretty well. We haven't heard complaints that they're not, but we can certainly look at that one to see if there's anything up that we're not aware of. So appreciate that input. And you know, when you're done with board questions, we just ask that you seek any input from the public on this as well.
Commissioner Zollner.
I think I must have missed it. Could you clarify what the sign-up sheet is for?
I put a sign-up sheet over there, so if any members of the public want to sign up so that they can be added to an email, a mailing list or an email list so that we can have better communication with the public during this process for this project.
Okay, and going forward from tonight, where is that sign-up sheet going to be?
That is going to be memorialized in a memo that shows that's being sent to DOT. As a part of that mailing, I did leave 2 weeks for comments to be sent to my email address, but that sign-up sheet will be put into the project folder, as well as a summary that goes to the DOT to show that we've completed the local concerns meeting.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any members of the public who would like to make comment? Great. Thank you. We'll just need your name and address, sir.
Sure. Michael Fontaine. I'm a managing partner of the law firm of Welch, White & Fontaine on Factory Street. I'm also one of the owners of the building that our firm is housed in. To the right of the photo of Factory Street is where our building is at. We're right at the corner there. In fact, if all of you know that particular location, there's a stairway that goes down between my building and the building of another law firm that you can see actually to the right of that picture. There are quite a few people that walk through that area regularly, so I'm very glad to hear that you folks applied for the federal funds and are actually moving forward with this project. I also have 25 employees in my firm. We're regularly crossing that crosswalk to get to our cars in the that we pay for spaces in that city lot. So again, I'm very happy for the safety of our employees as well as the public that this is occurring. I will tell you, I've been my office actually sits not too far from where that stairway is, and I've heard many screeching brakes over the years of where people are attempting to cross. The problem is, as you can see further up, there's a turn in the road, and people come flying around that corner at pretty high speeds. And sometimes people are attempting to cross the crosswalk, and all of a sudden they're facing someone flying around that corner. So anything that can be done in the form of signage, lights, to assist there would be great. Also, there is essentially very poor lighting in that area in the evening. And with all of the improvements that have occurred with the city and downtown, we see a lot more population coming in at night, including there's a new restaurant right across the street there. And so once again, anything that can be done to accentuate the visibility of that crosswalk and the need for people to slow as they approach it would be great. One last thing I'll say, and this is sort of an aside, and I love our UPS workers, but UPS drivers, for whatever reason, seem to constantly be coming down that road. I gather that's maybe from the location on Simon Street. You know, one of the things that we have there is that there are some big, pretty decent-sized vehicles that come down there as well. And sometimes I think, and I don't want to accuse anyone of it as a generalization, but sometimes those folks are probably trying to get their routes done quickly, and they come around pretty quickly. So anything, again, that is visible to the public, to the larger vehicles, I think would be very important. So I really appreciate you taking on this project.
Absolutely. What a perfect photo.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Thank you. I will sign up.
Yep. Yes, please come up.
Good evening. My name is Monica Lyon, and my husband and I own the building at 3133 Kinsley Street. which is on the corner of Chestnut. Right now, all the school buses come down. When the barriers go up on Main Street, all the trucks come around the back Water Street factory and down Chestnut, and it gets pretty hectic there. But our main concern is the constant flow of traffic way over the speed limit that comes down Kinsley Street. The brakes squeal constantly. We see at least one accident a week, and some of those are pedestrians. But we've noticed over the years, the crosswalk that crosses Kinsley from Chestnut is below Chestnut Street. So that all the cars coming out of Chestnut have to sit and wait, and then everybody gets edgy, and it builds on itself. If the crosswalk were moved to the west side of that same intersection, those people on Chestnut could continue to flow while the pedestrians cross at the top. And my only other thing is I don't want a bunch of flashing lights and the beeps like you have downtown to be ADA compliant right there by where we sleep. So I'd like to have you take into consideration, and I am going to sign up.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great. Yes, further comment?
Good evening. Michael Keneally, the owner of the Peddler's Daughter, 48 Main Street. I want to commend this project, really. I think it's going to be great. It's beautifying the city again, and it's making it safe at the same time. And that was a great addition that we had right on Main Street, right there on the Main Street Bridge. It really slowed traffic down, but as well as that, it brought safety into effect as well, because there used to be a lot of near accidents on there all the way through. So we're glad that that kind of happened. And I think it's human error that people are not pushing the button going across there. We kind of monitor it and stuff like that. But I think lighting is an issue downtown a little bit. I think we should have a little bit more lighting down there and a little bit more wattage. I think that's, especially with the dusk area coming into effect in the evening times. So, and especially along the Riverwalk right there. That's something that should be looked at as well at the same time. But I'm really glad this project is going ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know this is Mike Fontaine again. I know we're talking about the sidewalks and the crosswalks, I should say, but there is a stairway that goes between the buildings, my building and the other law firm's building, that accesses this crosswalk directly. Is there any plans on making any improvements to that, i.e., specifically it's not handicap accessible, and I know that there are folks that have to make a big loop around when they're trying to go through there?
Mark Saunders, Deputy City Engineer. That staircase you were talking about, that is outside the scope of this project, so we will not be making any adjustments to that at this time.
Further comments?
Can I just have one? I would like to thank the members of the public for coming out tonight. I do appreciate the feedback. That's why we have this process, and I'm happy to hear that. It seems that this grant's supported, and everyone seems thankful it's moving forward. So makes my job, it gives me a good feeling. So I'll leave it at that, and thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. There's further comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said no. I'm sorry.
I thought I was walking out the door. Robert Porter, 5 Donovan Drive, representing New Hampshire Consistory, which has a number of locations on Main Street that we own, as well as the Masonic Building Association. So we cover from 194 to 212 Main Street and 223 to 225 Main Street. I am in favor of the improvements, but based on the last answer to the question would be that I would ask that the city look at making sure that if these are handicap accessible, that we're looking to make sure that the sidewalks continue, that somebody crossing the street that has a wheelchair or pushing a carriage isn't stranded and then stuck not being able to move on. So if that's not in the scope, I'd like to see that looked at. I've got plenty of other things that have nothing to do with this, but we'll leave that for another night. That was my one item. Thanks.
If I may, I have a comment.
Yes?
I appreciate the notes from folks about handicap accessibility. That stairway is certainly rough. If I understand correctly, which I've of course followed very closely with the riverfront improvement project and the concepts that have come together, that kind of improvement for accessibility is certainly a big part of the riverfront development project that's going to be ongoing for a number of years ahead. My understanding is that there are renderings, and it's been a little bit since I've been engaged with that project, but the early renderings do call for kind of bringing the difference in grade because it kind of you kind of go down those stairs, and then effectively you have this big, the big Water Street ramp, and then which is high, which is almost at the level of where the stairs begin, and then you go back down to the parking lot there, and it takes the topography of that kind of breadth of space, and brings it to a more gradual transition, and there's some incorporation of natural amphitheater between where Water Street is now and the riverfront. So I anticipate that as part of that much bigger project, which is being funded by the Tax Increment Finance District, that you will very likely be able to look forward to accommodations, not just in that area, but on all four segments of the Riverwalk.
Okay, thank you. All right, I guess that, if there's no further comments from the public, that would conclude our informational session regarding the STEP grant program. Item D is also informational street opening permits issued for streets in moratorium. Are there any questions for Engineer Hudson? We'll move on to item number E, the West Pearl Street update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dan Hudson, City Engineer. I did just want to give the board an update on the West Pearl Street streetscape project. This is one that started off as a kind of an offshoot to the Performing Arts Center project. Economic Development Director worked with a group of folks to produce a design. We were hoping to get that constructed kind of on the same timeline as the Performing Arts Center project, but unfortunately that's not going to happen. The bids came in, actually there was only one bid, and due to the aggressive schedule and whatnot, it just wasn't feasible to get that constructed this year. So we're in the process working with the designers to have them repackage it, and we'll put it out as a separate bid project. Public Works is going to take an active role in that. Previously, it was going to be done kind of through Harvey's contract, but we're going to manage this thing through revised design and bidding and construction is the plan. So just wanted to provide an update. As I said, we did meet with the design team on November 10th. We had a number of comments that we relayed to them. They're in the process of developing an amendment to do that design revision and repackaging. And we would expect to bring that to the board hopefully in December, but we'll see, for approval so we can proceed through trying to get this project out to construction.
Great.
I'd be
Appreciate it.
happy to answer any questions about that.
Did you mention that this project was originally a part of an offshoot of the Performing Arts Center project?
Yeah, I don't have the specifics on how it was contracted or whatever. I just know that we got engaged. It was a project that was being led by economic development. Engineering was asked to review plans at a 75% stage, so we provided some comments then. And then I know they put it out to bid pretty quickly, trying to, as I said, the schedule I think was trying to get it constructed by the end of the year, but the bid didn't go out till June or July, so there really wasn't much time to get the work done. So now we're gonna become more involved in the project because it's not gonna be done through the contractor, the same contractor that was doing the Performing Arts Center, because they will have finished that project and have moved on by the point in time that this will go out to bid for construction again. And the project, I think we've described it before, but it's a streetscape project primarily, reconstructing the sidewalks, providing some lighting, trees, street furniture, and repave the road. So when all's said and done, it'll be almost a brand-new street from what you can see, other than maybe the utilities underneath. But it'll be a nice project, but we have a little ways to go before we get there.
I distinctly remember when this project was brought to our attention a few months back, being assured that this project had nothing to do with the Performing Arts Center, that this was...
When I say when I say an offshoot, I think I mean like it's adjacent to it and it's the right time to do it because you have this new facility. I know they're doing some work in the garden alleyway behind the Performing Arts Center as part of the project, I guess. And so, we're gonna have a new facility. It's a good time to redo the streetscape. I think that was the thought process. I think that's why the project got, accelerated. But I don't know that it was specifically, maybe it's poor terminology. I don't know that it was specifically done under a performing arts contract or anything like that. We were involved in kind of a review capacity, and now we're going to be taking a more active role in it going forward, so.
I see. Okay, so the funding is going to come from bond. So city taxpayers are going to bear, I think it was around $2 million, $2.5 million to do streetscaping for the sake of beautifying the area near the Performing Arts Center, when we're already being asked to bear an awful lot of debt for that Performing Arts Center. Is it now 15 to 20 million? That seems hurtful.
Yeah, I mean, we did a similar effort on Main Street previous to the Performing Arts Center. There was a bond resolution brought forward last spring. It was approved. It covered this and the Walnut Oval project, which is a state project which will be coming, but basically covering the city's match, I think, for that project. So there are a bunch of things going on in the city. I guess it was my suggestion it might be the right time to do it. I think that's probably why it was advanced. But no, all these decisions and funding decisions get brought to the appropriate people for approval, and Board of Aldermen approved that bond resolution, and we're trying to carry forward and complete the project as envisioned.
Yes,
Add to what Engineer Hudson is saying. So this project is a separate project from the Performing Arts Center. We did want to make sure that that's clear. And it was originally being led by economic development, and it really made sense for a road project to be overseen by Public Works and engineering. So we are just very recently now Engineer Hudson is taking this project over. So we've sort of inherited it. This isn't something that we have been sort of heavily involved in from the very beginning. So we thought this was a good time to let you know that we're trying to repackage this project and put it out to bid. So, but there are some issues with the sidewalks are not ADA compliant, so that will be addressed. So it's more than just a beautification project. So just wanted to make sure that that was understood.
And I take it the project will come before us for a vote at some point? Yes.
The money has already been appropriated, though, just.
Right. Yeah, I think to be appropriate, we'll, again, we got to enter into an amendment. You'll probably see that contract, basically, the contract amendment, and then we'll proceed through a design, and I'm sure we'll speak again about it and share additional details prior to it actually going to construction.
So just to be clear, the funding won't be coming because that's already been
Appropriated.
approved, right?
Right.
So, but yes, updates, we will certainly bring you updates.
Commissioner Shea, you had a comment?
Yeah, if I may, I have a couple of comments. First of all, I appreciate that moving forward, this will be coming before the board for approval and so that we can offer insight and anything that we've garnered for feedback from constituents. So thank you for working towards that. I think it's most appropriate for the Board of Public Works to be engaged on projects that involve the streetscape, whether it's improvements, general renovations, reconfiguring of street directions. I really do feel that by way of the language that organizes us together, that's the right way to be handling these things. And so thank you for that. I also do want to remark that when we last met to kind of review this, we kind of got the proposal in the 11th hour with very little opportunity to offer input to it. There was a sense of urgency when that took place, given the timing of the Performing Arts Center, which I agreed that if the project was going to be built out in tandem with the Performing Arts Center, that sense of urgency was founded and therefore supported this. During that meeting, I did request that every effort be made to leverage the tax increment finance district funding to support this project. To which I received a reply that if I recall correctly, that effort would be made. I don't know the standing of that. It was also my understanding at that meeting when inquiring about the tax increment finance district that there was likely funding in excess of the baseline costs to debt service that funding had already been allocated to that could potentially go towards this project. I do understand as a matter of principle that the revenue that's generated in excess of that baseline cost from the tax increment finance district, the additional revenue that is not spent goes back to the general fund. Although I would say as a matter of principle and the kind of foundation for why that fund was established, we really should be looking to use it to the extent that it's available to fund these kinds of improvements and ensure that we don't have any sort of mission creep or cost creep for other kinds of projects or the Performing Arts Center specifically that funding might go towards when we could be more conservative with other costs and ensure that it goes towards projects in addition to the center itself. And so I don't know what we can do as a body to ensure that we move further in that direction. I don't know if my colleagues agree with me on that sentiment, but I wanted to share that, and I'd appreciate if anyone else has other thoughts that they'd be glad to share as we continue the conversation.
So the tax increment financing, Commissioner Shea, would not be under the Division of Public Works oversight. That would be under economic development. So we'd have to asked those questions to Director Cummings. We've sort of just inherited this project and now are executing it. So I think those would be questions for Director Cummings regarding any use of TIF funds, because I think he has a far better handle on that than we would. So I could ask him
Okay.
to come next meeting if you'd like and give us an update.
Yeah, or even if, if you'd be able to inquire to him and relay the feedback. I know he's very busy these days, but
Sure.
if he's glad to come and talk more with us about it, that's great too.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, that's great.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah, okay. We'll move on to administration. Motion A, Commissioner Lemon, I'll have you read that.
The motion is to transfer the DPW Administration Building oversight from the Board of Public Works to the Board of Aldermen on or around March 1st, 2023, when it is no longer needed by the Division of Public Works.
So do you want me to speak? It's pretty self-explanatory, but, so this is typically what happens with the building. The Board of Aldermen, when they purchased 9 Riverside Street, turned it over to the Board of Public Works for our, of course, administration and engineering's use. Now that we no longer need it, we just need to turn the oversight back to the Board of Aldermen, and they will in turn decide what the future use of that building will be. I believe that it's going to be used by the police department. That's to the best of my knowledge, but it's just a formality that we need to do.
Questions? Okay, roll call vote.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman?
Yes.
Commissioner Lemon?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. Director Photo, Director's report.
Okay. Let's see if I can get this up here. I can't see the full slide. Can you see where it says slide? Oh. Dan, can you see?
Go to slideshow.
I know, I can't see, that's my problem.
I can't see that either. I can't see that.
I should have brought my glasses and I didn't. Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Okay, our first slide is a sewer main replacement on Lock Street. This is done by SUR Construction West. The photos show them installing new manholes on October 28th. This is a picture of a gas main replacement, Lock and Amherst Street. This is for Liberty Utilities is doing this work. And they're installing plastic mains instead of the old leak-prone cast iron mains. This is Milltown Plumbing, who replaced the sewer service to 2 Shattuck Street and 3 Cross Street at the end of October. Kenyon Pipeline is currently cleaning and videoing sewer and drainage pipes throughout the city. The robotic camera equipment is installed into the pipe and controlled remotely from inside the camera truck. And the completed videos are transmitted to the engineering department for review. On October 27th, 28th, and November 10th, our stormwater and viruscape presentation was given to about 210 seventh graders at Elm Street Middle School by Amy Gill, our senior staff engineer. And if you haven't seen her do this presentation, you should come to the next our Public Works Day, because it's she has a tremendous amount of energy, and it's a lot of fun to watch. This education is required by our EPA MS4 stormwater permit as well. Sunshine Paving is shown paving in a driveway tie-in on West Hollis Street on November 7th. This Sunshine Paving completed final paving of Lear Drive and Dulude Street in mid-October. And we finally have the bridge portion of our playground equipment at Roby Park repaired. I know there were a lot of youngsters waiting for
Yes.
that to happen, so just has been such a long lead time on equipment, but that's finally been repaired, so. We held our 52nd annual June Karen Senior Outing on Sunday, November 13th at the Courtyard Marriott. We had 270 seniors join us for food entertainment by Jim Smith, who is from the Senior Center, and our very popular raffle. We had lots of prizes that we gave away. So it was a very successful event, and it was nice. This is the first time in, I think, 2 or 3 years that we're back together again, so for this event, so it was nice to see. We had a very successful Halloween Boo Bash for our new, it was a scary success. Hundreds of kids turned out. We ran out of pumpkins. We did not expect the turnout, and but we still have plenty of activities for everybody, and we will make sure that we're prepared next year. But this replaced Fright Night, and it was a much bigger success. So we'll be doing it again next year. We actually also had a movie, so, okay. Skipping ahead too much here. So the area around the Veterans Memorial Park on Ledge Street, right near the elementary school, it was really, the pavement was really worn. The street department just did that. You can see how beautiful it turned out, and there was a service on Friday for Veterans Day, and so it was very timely, and the veterans were very appreciative of that work. This is, crews repaired the sidewalk here on Gillis Street where there were multiple stumps that needed to be removed, and there were heaved sidewalk panels that were replaced. The street crews constructed a new utility building at Atherton Park to house the water service and electrical for the field. This is the finished coat of paving on the new parking lot at Atherton. On the left, and on the right, we installed an under drain to alleviate some surface runoff. Harris Preserve Pump Station on Preserve Drive, we're just starting the construction. This is a picture of our collections crew at the wastewater facility cleaning out the grit chamber. And the grit chamber is where the sand and fine organic debris fall out of suspension and are removed from the process. From the beginning of the process. Our risk department held some bloodborne pathogen training for wastewater staff. This is a really important training for our employees. Curbside collection of soft yard waste will be ending on Friday, December 2nd. And also, I mentioned this last month, but I want to mention it again. The Floral Hills landfill will be closed on Thursday, November 24th for Thanksgiving. However, we will be picking up on Friday. So even though City Hall is closed, we will be picking up trash on Friday. And Thursday and Friday routes, of course, will be delayed one day. So Thursday routes will be picked up Friday, Friday routes will be picked up on Saturday. But we don't want folks to get confused. We will be picking up on Friday. And that's it. Any questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any commissioners' comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to.
Oh, wait a minute, I have one.
Yes.
I just want to thank Director Photo for donating a trash truck ride-along to the Nashua Soup Kitchen and Shelters auction. The winner was a man named Chase Pekarski, who is a former teacher at Nashua High South. I don't know what he's doing now. And the winning bid was $210.
Oh, fabulous.
So I will get in touch with Diane. And, but people were quite surprised and happy to see that, so.
That's great. Glad we could help a wonderful cause.
Great. We'll move on to personnel. Commissioner Shoneman, motion A, if you could kindly.
All right, so this is on the goldenrod sheet, not on not about the non-public, right? Okay.
This is to approve and unseal the
All right,
minutes.
motion to approve and unseal the non-public minutes for personnel from the Board of Public Works meeting of October 27th, 2022.
Thank you.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman?
Yes.
Commissioner Lemon?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
I hope he's still there.
Thank you. Motion passes. Item B, non-public, Commissioner Shoneman.
Okay. I move by roll call that the board go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91-A 3 2B, the hiring of any person as a public employee.
Thank you.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman?
Yes.
Commissioner Lemon?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Great, we're in non-public session.
public.
Okay, Commissioner Shoneman, we're back in public session, I think.
I move by roll call to seal the minutes of the Board of Public Works Personnel non-public meeting of November 17th, 2022, until such time as the majority of the board votes that the purpose of the confidentiality would no longer be served.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman?
Yes.
Commissioner Lemon?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. One more motion for the evening. Commissioner Lemon.
I motion to adjourn this meeting.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Shoneman?
Yes.
Commissioner Lemon?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes, and thank you to Commissioner Lemon and Commissioner Shoneman for doing double duty reading motions tonight. I greatly appreciate it.
All right. Thanks. Thanks a lot. Meeting's adjourned.